Hello everyone, welcome to the rotoscope and masking tutorial for After Effects. So we're going to be looking at several different ways to use masks and also track matte layers. What we're going to look at is using the green screen extraction technique as a way for creating a track matte layer that's more complicated and involves movement. So this should be fun. Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and create a new composition. This can be 4 seconds. You can leave your settings to the default settings, from the first one. So every time you start a new composition, it's gonna remember the settings from before. Anyways, okay, so I'm gonna call this 2 because it's our second task. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and bring down let's bring down the green screen asset first. And so here we have our a green screen footage. We're going to simply just come over here and look for key light. You're familiar with this. And we're going to choose key light and go ahead and throw that on there. And let's just go ahead and key that out. Perfect. Wonderful, wonderful, looking good. All right, so go back into our project window. By the way, if you're getting lost, just as a reminder, your effect controls panel is here, but if you're like, where's my project tab? How do I get to my assets? Just click on this double caret here and you're gonna see your project open back up. See, they're both here, but the effect control is green screen. That file name is so long that it takes up all the space. So, all right, the next asset that I want you to bring down is the cloud formation. You can just put that behind this individual's footage for now. Go ahead and bring down the black and white wooden board, and I'm not sure how big that is. So let me just shut off visibility in my top 2 layers. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit my S key and I'm gonna scale that down because it's a lot bigger. So I'm just gonna scale that down so that it's covering the whole canvas. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and turn these back on. The movement here. Oh, he's doing a thumbs up in this first 4 seconds. That's perfect. Now what we need to do is overlay the cloud video onto our extracted layer of the green screen footage. So remember, what's on top cuts out the bottom. So we're gonna go to the cloud layer and then go ahead and choose Alpha Matte Green Screen, and voila. Perfect. The other thing that I want to happen is I want this individual to turn to red, which is what I have going on in this particular clip. So, and a lot of students really like this whole silhouette type of look, like dancing silhouette. So this is how you do it, by the way. We're going to learn how to do it in just a second, but anyway, so how am I going to accomplish that? Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to pre-compose these 2 layers. So I'm kind of like grouping them. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to actually go ahead and duplicate this green screen footage. I want to make a second one because we're going to be also doing a track matte with just a solid red layer. So I can show you how to do that. So what I want you to do is go ahead and select the green screen layer and I want you to duplicate it. What we're going to do is pre-compose these 2 or like group them together so that they're nice and organized on the screen and it just looks like one layer. So I'm going to go ahead and shift or command select both of those, control click, and we're going to go to pre-compose and I'm going to call this clouds. So now I can see that this is nice and organized. So pre-composing, you all should be a little bit familiar with it, but it's just like grouping. And if I want to get into this individual composition that's nested in my bigger composition, all I have to do is double click on it. So if I double click on it, I see clouds is open here by itself. And the reason there's no background is because if I look in my composition 2, my background's not included in this pre-comp because I need it to lay over the background for the entire timeline. So for, let's see, for clouds, I'm going to have you go ahead and pull it back to 2 seconds here. So this green screen, if we turn on the visibility here, you're going to see we're just back in action like normal. I want you to go ahead and go to new layer, new solid layer, and you can pick whatever color you want. I picked red. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And then bring your green screen layer up above because remember what the shape you want is what cuts out what's underneath it. So if we go to red solid, Track matte, we're gonna choose Alpha Matte Green Screen. There we go. Now this is overlaid with the clouds and we don't want that. We want them to switch out. So what I want you to do is let's go ahead and group this top layer. So Command, Control click, pre-compose, and this is gonna be called red. Hit OK, and let me just drag this back here. Okay, so what you should have here is an overlay of the cloud video layer, and then it just turns to red solid silhouette. All right, so that is, you've completed all the tasks for composition number 2. So let's go ahead and render that out. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and take Door Shore and drop it down here on the composition window. And then you can, you know, call it whatever you like. This is, we're gonna do what's called a displacement map in this particular composition, and you can see that it's 10 seconds long here. You don't need to have it be that long, so I'm gonna leave mine that long so that you can see the displacement map over time. But if it's bogging your computer down or anything like that, go ahead and shrink this composition down to, you know, 4 seconds or so. Okay, so next we need to go ahead and create a text layer, and I'm gonna say let's swim, which is what I said in the other example that I made, and I'm gonna have that bottom one be all caps, I guess. And let me just make some quick adjustments to the text here. All right, I've got my little puppy dog down here whining because he wants to eat, and they start whining about 4 o'clock every day and tend to act like it's life or death if they don't eat in the next few minutes. So if you're hearing little whines, that's what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead and place this text. This is similar to the floating text tutorial that I showed you. So I'm going to go ahead and make that a faux 3D layer, and let's go ahead and transform that so that it's sitting on that beach in a believable way that it could be just sitting on top of the sand there. So let's say like that, and then I'm actually gonna scale that up a bit, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and move that layer down onto the sand like so. And then what I want you to do is go over to Effects and Presets, and I want you to search for something called Displacement Map. So here's the displacement map. Now, this can become a really complex tool. I'm just going to quickly go over it so you can understand the basics of how it works, but there are other things to explore. Depending on the type of video that you have that you're using as a displacement map, there are some things that you can do to bring the contrast up and make it work a little bit better for the layer that you're doing. But I think for what we're doing today, this video file is going to work really good for this text. So go ahead and throw that on to your Let's Swim layer. And you might already notice that there's a little bit of displacement going on here on the layer. So what we're going to do up here is right now it's sourcing itself, and we want it to source the video layer here. So go ahead and select that, and hopefully what you notice, let me go ahead and play this, is that the text is displacing a little bit as the wave comes over, but there's some things that we can do to make this setting work a little bit better. So the first thing I would do is from red and green, I would change that to luminance on both. That just changes it to kind of a black and white. And then I would bring the displacement up to maybe, let's see how 25 looks on each of these to make it a little bit more exaggerated. And what you're going to notice, of course, is that in certain parts of the videos, this is working a little bit better and is more convincing than other parts of the videos. And then I want to go ahead and take the opacity down to, say, like 70, no, maybe like 65 on the text. so that it feels a little bit more embedded under that water. So we have a little bit of transparency in the text so that the water can kind of roll over it or make it seem like it is. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah, so it's not perfect, but it looks pretty good. Anyways, very cool trick. That's displacement. Oh, you can see there's a little bit of artifacts kind of when the water's when it's getting really bumpy there. So, but anyways, that hopefully gives you a basic idea of what using a displacement map is for and what it can do for you in terms of compositing.